Now, the non-bank financial industry is really springing up. We have a lot of microfinance companies coming up, a lot of savings and loans companies coming up. But there's a growing concern among banks, as in the depositing of funds into these institutions are becoming rampant more than the traditional banks. And the concern is that they might collapse the traditional banks. We are here to discuss, really, do the banks have a point when they say that they are facing these challenges because interest rates charged on the deposits and those non-bank institutions are higher than theirs. I am here with Samuel Ampah, the head of research and marketing at the Gold Coast Management Fund. You're welcome to Business Live, sir.
Yes, thank you very much.
Now, this growing phenomenon, when banks say that they are facing deposit challenges because interest rates charged on, funds put in by members of the public in these non-bank financial institutions are really causing harm. Do they have a point?
I don't see the point of the commercial banks or let's say the universal banks at all because the market is open. I mean, there's so much people, there's so much unbanked in Ghana that these commercial or universal banks are only found in the city capitals. Some who are trying to go everywhere do not spread that much. So therefore, you can't find them there. And the microfinance companies are there for the people. They are serving the needs of the unbanked, the people that these commercial banks will not look at. So I do not see the argument of the commercial banks, if indeed they are claiming that these microfinance organizations are mobilizing funds which were supposed to come to them. Then I find it too strange a thought by these commercial banks. In any case, let's look at this. The microfinance organizations or institutions are doing what these commercial banks were supposed to do, by offering product and services to the unbanked. And if they are not doing it and the microfinance are doing it, why should they complain? Why should they say they are taking up the opportunities? And in banking, the profit or the markup is where you are able to mobilize cheap funds. The microfinance companies or institutions are mobilizing cheaper funds. The commercial banks are supposed to do that so that you can lend at a very competitive rate. And this is a very competitive, the financial institutions today are a very competitive environment. So I really see that the cost of capital, the cost of capital for the commercial banks are now high because now they are not getting these cheaper funds which the microfinance organization might mobilize and then maybe deposits in the commercial banks at a higher rate, and that is where I think they are complaining, and that is where maybe the challenge is coming from the commercial banks.
Now, their issue is that the market is just too open for these non-bank financial institutions, and they want the regulator to do something about it. Do they still have a point?
If it has to do with mobilization, then the commercial banks people are now making a strong point. Because the market is open. There's you have to get into the market and then perform. I mean, at the end of the year, you're looking at your returns or your incomes, right? So therefore, if you want to increase it, your bottom lines should go up. You should be innovative. However, if they are looking at the upspring of so many microfinance organizations which are not regulated by the central bank, then they have a case because we have had a lot of microfinance organizations springing up in the country where they pretend to provide a certain service which is not really which is not really licensed, and they tend to do things that are not within the financial obligations, So that I will support I will support commercial banks if the central bank should come in and regulate. And somehow, I think we've seen a lot of microfinance organizations popping up these days. We should have a quota. We should be able to, restrict the numbers and put a cap, on how many can register within a period. But look, my sister, the point is that there are a lot of people out there that are unbanked. Not too long ago, I heard of a story of a community that have one person with a small table taking monies and acting as a banker, as a bank to the community that do not have banking service. What that is, I mean, we are in a country where we have big banks. I mean, I do not want to mention names, but we have big banks. If such banks are there and they allow such activities to go on, they should not blame anybody.
So you think our banks are not really doing what they ought to be doing?
There is so much expectations. I mean, when it comes to banking or the financial sector in this country, it is doing well. But honestly, if you go deep into the societies, the communities, the villages, you realize that banking activities had not gone there. So in generality, you will say that commercial banks are only concentrated in towns, bigger towns, where they see profit or real growth opportunities.